In February 2026, Park Sunghoon stood on a street in Milan carrying the Olympic torch. Thousands of fans lined the roads, screaming his name so loudly it drowned out his thoughts. He looked around, genuinely confused, and asked himself, "How do they know my name?" It wasn't false modesty, it was the reaction of a boy who spent 10 years performing in silence for judges who never cheered. To understand that moment, you have to look at the controversial decision that changed his life. He was a top-ranked figure skater with a real shot at the Olympics. He had gold medals and national titles, and he walked away from all of it to become a K-pop idol. The controversy starts with what he left behind. Sunghoon wasn't just a hobbyist. He started skating at 8 years old, and by 13 he was competing internationally. He won gold at the Lombardia Trophy and earned consecutive silvers at the Asian Open. He made the South Korean national reserve team. He trained side by side with Cha Junwon, who is now a world medalist and Olympian. Sunghoon was on the exact same path. In the sports world, walking away from that kind of potential is almost unheard of. To many, it looked like a waste of talent. People questioned why a national athlete would trade a guaranteed future for the unstable life of a trainee. The reason was the pressure. Figure skating is an individual sport. There are no teammates. If you fall, you get up alone. If you lose, it is entirely your fault. Sunghoon admitted that while the sport built his discipline, it also made him obsessed with scores. He was winning, but he wasn't happy. He spent years performing for judges who held up numbers to define his worth. That changed when he went to a BTS concert. He saw fans screaming not to judge the performers, but simply because they loved them. Sunghoon realized he didn't want cold scores anymore. He wanted that connection with a crowd. So in 2018, when Big Hit Entertainment scouted him on Instagram, he made the terrifying choice to start over from zero. The transition was messy and filled with silent struggles. For 2 years, he lived a double life, training as a skater during the day and as an idol at night. The skills didn't perfectly translate. Skating taught him to be stoic, controlled, and perfect. Being an idol required him to be expressive, charming, and open. When he entered the survival show Island, this became a major problem. Viewers didn't know his backstory. They saw his stiff demeanor and labeled him cold or arrogant. They didn't see a shy boy. They saw an ice prince with no personality. He struggled with concepts that required him to be cute or soft because skating never asked him to be anything but technically correct. He was fighting to survive in a competition based on charm, using a skill set built for silence. Even after debuting with ENHYPEN in 2020, the struggle continued. He was incredibly hard on himself. He knew his vocals weren't on the same level as members who had trained for years. He kept his thoughts short in video diaries because he was used to processing everything internally alone. The industry forced him into the spotlight as an MC for Music Bank, demanding he be talkative and witty on live TV. For someone who described himself as never well-spoken, it was a nightmare. He had to take speaking lessons just to sound natural. The pressure of validating his career choice, proving that walking away from skating was worth it, was a weight he carried every day. That weight finally broke in February 2024 during the final night of ENHYPEN's Seoul concert. In the middle of his speech, Sunghoon suddenly started crying. He couldn't talk. He sank to the ground while the members comforted him. It was a raw, unscripted moment that shattered his cold image. He later explained that he was the type to hold everything in until it all pours out at once. The years of isolation, the fear of failure, and the burden of his own expectations had piled up. That breakdown was the moment he finally stopped trying to be the perfect stoic athlete and allowed himself to be vulnerable. This brings us back to that street in Milan. When Sunghoon carried the Olympic torch in 2026, he wasn't an athlete competing for a medal. He was an icon who had finally found his place. Standing there, hearing the crowd chant his name, he realized he had achieved his Olympic dream, just not the way he pictured it. He didn't need a scorecard to know his worth anymore. The controversy of his choice was finally settled. He gave up the ice to find a team and a crowd that loved him, not for his technique, but for who he was.